If you're gearing up for a civil service interview or even just filling out an application, you have undoubtedly heard two specific terms repeated over and over again: behaviors and strengths. And if you're like most people, you're probably thinking, don't those mean kind of the same thing? Well, they really don't. They can sound similar, sure, but they are assessing entirely different things. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to dive directly into the Civil Service Success Profiles framework to finally clear up this overwhelming confusion once and for all. Right, so if you're feeling a bit bogged down by the bureaucratic language of government recruitment, you're definitely not alone. You are likely asking yourself what exactly the interview panel actually wants to see from you. You're reading the job description, you're seeing abstract words like seeing the big picture or adaptability, and you're just left wondering how on earth you're supposed to demonstrate these concepts to a panel of complete strangers. Don't worry, we're going to break this massive document down into bite-sized pieces. Today we'll cover the Success Profile Framework, behaviors versus strengths, the 9 core behaviors, how you are assessed, and finally, scaling up the levels.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Success Profile Framework.
Okay, so it really helps to understand the big picture before we zoom in on the details. The overarching framework brilliantly illustrates a major shift. We've moved away from a purely competency-based system, which is what government recruitment used to rely on almost entirely, towards a much more flexible framework. It now consists of 5 distinct interconnected elements. This gives the civil service the best possible chance of finding the absolute right person for the job by looking at candidates from multiple angles. These 5 elements are behaviors, strengths, ability, experience, and technical skills. Now, a specific role might heavily assess your technical skills or your past experience, but the 2 elements that consistently confuse applicants the absolute most, the ones that literally trip people up in interviews, are behaviors and strengths.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2, behaviors versus strengths.
What's really interesting here is pinning down the exact difference between these 2 seemingly identical terms. And honestly, understanding this distinction matters because you should absolutely never answer a strengths question in the same way as a behavior question. It's a totally different ballgame. A simple way to remember it is this: behaviors equal what have you done. It requires detailed evidence of your historical actions. Strengths, on the other hand, equal what do you naturally do well and what do you actually enjoy doing. It explores your internal motivations and your regular habits. Think of behaviors as your track record and strengths as your natural engine. So, this means the way you structure your answer has to change based on the question type. If the panel says, "Tell me about a time you made a difficult decision," that's a behavior question. They want evidence. You must deliver a detailed STAR response: situation, task, action, result, spending most of your time on the action part to prove exactly what you did. But if they ask, "Do you enjoy making decisions?" well, that is a strength question. Do not launch into a 5-minute STAR monologue here. Instead, use a simple formula. Answer, then why, then evidence. Start by answering directly. Yes, I really enjoy it. Explain why, because I like breaking down complex problems. And then provide just a very brief piece of evidence to back it up. Moving right along, Section 3, the 9 core behaviors. Let's see how this actually builds into the framework that the civil service measures. They've categorized these historical actions into 9 specific themes associated with job success. We're talking things like seeing the big picture, changing and improving, and making effective decisions, leadership, communicating and influencing, and working together, developing self and others, managing a quality service, and delivering at pace. When they ask about these, the panel wants concrete evidence of you demonstrating these specific actions. Now, if that list of 9 core behaviors looks super intimidating, just take a breath. Recruiting managers will only choose a specific selection of these behaviors that are best suited to the job you are actually applying for. You might only be assessed on 3 or maybe 4 of them. So always read the job description carefully so you know exactly which behaviors you need to prep those historical STAR examples for. Okay, Section 4, how you are assessed. So how exactly is the panel going to extract this behavioral evidence from you? Well, it's not always just sitting across a desk in a formal interview. Behaviors can be observed and measured at various stages of the recruitment journey. You might provide written historical examples on your initial application form. You might take a civil service judgment test, which throws hypothetical scenarios at you to see how you'd react. Or you could be asked to demonstrate these behaviors in real time during a role play, an in-tray exercise, or a group discussion at an assessment center. The whole framework is designed to capture a really well-rounded picture of how you operate. And finally, Section 5, scaling up the levels. Let's look at the reality of this framework, because the expectations scale drastically depending on your specific job grade. What counts as seeing the big picture for an entry-level role is vastly different from a senior leadership role. Just look at this stark contrast. If you're applying for a level 1 role, like an administrative assistant, seeing the big picture simply means understanding your responsibilities and how they help your immediate team. But if you're applying for a level 6 director role, that exact same behavior requires you to understand and anticipate international political, economic, and environmental impacts. The behavior theme is the same, but the scale of the action is entirely different. It's a similar story for making effective decisions. An entry-level level 1 candidate is expected to use available guidance, identify errors, and ask colleagues for input before deciding. Totally reasonable. But a director at level 6, they have to confidently make bold, unbiased decisions at a strategic level, even if those decisions prove to be highly unpopular. And they have to be able to defend them at the highest levels of government. So make sure you always map your STAR examples to the specific level you are applying for. Understanding this whole framework helps you avoid the most common mistakes that absolutely sink otherwise great candidates. The biggest trap? Giving a 5-minute STAR speech for a quick strength question. It drains the interview time and just misses the point. On the flip side, assuming that sounding enthusiastic automatically demonstrates a strength and giving vague opinions with zero evidence at all is also a huge mistake. Always back up a strength with a tiny bit of proof. Also, in your behavior answers, don't spend all your time describing the situation. Get to the action. And whatever you do, please stop saying we did this and we did that. The panel isn't hiring your old team, right? They're hiring you. They need to know what your individual contribution was. Okay, if you take away just one concept from this entire explainer today, let it be this fundamental rule. Lock this into your memory. Behaviors mean you must prove it. Show the panel what you've previously done and how effectively you did it using the STAR method. Strengths mean you must show it. Show the panel what you naturally do well and what motivates you by answering directly and showing some genuine enthusiasm. This quote, straight from the Success Profiles source document, reveals exactly why the civil service uses this highly structured approach in the first place. By separating what you can do based on past evidence from what you genuinely enjoy doing based on natural strengths, they can accurately predict your future performance. They aren't trying to trick you. They're just trying to predict a really good mutual fit. So, the next time you're sitting in that interview chair, before you even open your mouth to answer, pause for just a second and ask yourself this vital question. Are they asking for concrete evidence of what I've done, or are they trying to understand how I naturally operate? Once you recognize that difference, structuring the perfect answer becomes incredibly simple. Good luck on your next application.